Nerds, how did you end up falling in love with your bully? In high school, Marcus was my worst nightmare. Every single day, he'd find new ways to make my life miserable, knocking my books out of my hands, calling me weird in front of everyone, making fun of my thick glasses and the fact that I ate lunch alone in the library. I was this awkward 15-year-old who loved reading fantasy novels and got excited about science fair projects. Marcus was the popular football player who seemed to hate everything I represented. Smart, quiet, different. The worst part was how he'd imitate my stutter whenever I had to read out loud in English class. The whole room would laugh while I stood there, face burning red, trying to get through whatever paragraph the teacher assigned. Senior year, I got accepted to State University with a full academic scholarship. Meanwhile, Marcus barely graduated, and everyone said he'd probably end up working at his dad's auto shop forever. I thought I'd never see him again. 8 years later, I'm working as a software engineer at this tech company downtown. I loved my job, had my own apartment, finally felt confident about who I was. Then one day, I'm grabbing coffee at the shop next to my office building when I hear someone say my name. I turn around and there's Marcus. Still tall, still handsome, but something was different about him. He looked tired, older, and he was wearing this faded work shirt with grease stains on it. He asked if he could sit down and talk to me. I almost said no, but something about the way he looked made me curious, so I sat down across from him at this little corner table. Marcus started crying right there in the coffee shop, not just tearing up, but full-on sobbing. He told me he'd been thinking about high school constantly, about how awful he was to me and how he'd been trying to find me for 2 years to apologize. Turns out Marcus had been dealing with some serious stuff back then. His dad was an alcoholic who beat him every night. His mom had left when he was 12. He was failing most of his classes and felt like a complete failure. He said picking on me was his way of feeling powerful when everything else in his life was falling apart. He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop himself. I was smart and had a future, and he was jealous because he felt like he had nothing. After graduation, Marcus had joined the army because he didn't know what else to do. He served 2 tours overseas, got some shrapnel in his leg, and came back with PTSD. He'd been in therapy for 3 years, trying to deal with all the guilt he carried around. He pulled out this worn piece of paper from his wallet. It was a list of people he'd hurt over the years, and my name was at the top. He said he'd been working up the courage to find me because I was the person he'd treated the worst. I sat there listening to this guy who used to terrorize me, and all I could think about was how much pain he must have been in back then, how lonely and scared he must have felt every day, just like I did. We started meeting for coffee every few weeks. Marcus was different now. He was gentle, thoughtful, and he actually listened when I talked about my work or the books I was reading. He'd ask questions about programming and seemed genuinely interested in my life. He told me about the nightmares he had from his time in the army, about how hard it was to find work with his disability, about the guilt he felt for all the people he'd hurt. But he was trying so hard to be better, to make up for the person he used to be. 6 months later, Marcus asked me out on a real date. I said yes, even though my friends thought I was crazy. They couldn't understand how I could even consider dating someone who used to bully me. But the Marcus I was getting to know wasn't the same person from high school. He was kind, protective, and he treated me like I was the most important person in the world. He'd never raised his voice or made me feel small. We've been together for 3 years now. Marcus works at a nonprofit helping other veterans deal with PTSD. He volunteers at the local high school, talking to kids about bullying and how much damage it can cause. Sometimes people ask me how I could fall in love with someone who used to hurt me. The truth is, we were both broken kids back then. He was broken by violence and abandonment, and I was broken by loneliness and fear. But we helped each other heal. Marcus taught me that people can change, and I taught him that he deserved forgiveness and love. We're planning our wedding for next spring.